Pulling an old pickup, well, not real old, but you know, 70s, 76 I think it was, Chevy pickup that I used to drive. Hasn't been driven for a good 20 years. I kind of kept it around for parts because it's got actually a real good 350 in it. But it's been packed back in them weeds, and there are like 3 other vehicles back in there. This was on the edge, so I pulled this one out to get it out of the way because it's kind of right where I'm working. But she came out tough. But you can see why. It's kind of turned into a greenhouse. A lot of vines. But, you know, it's basically junk. And every tire is flat, although I think the 2 back tires were new shortly before I parked it. But, you know, these old Chevys, they rust out. It's just kind of junk. But I might as well pull the motor and the tranny out of it. You know, I kept it around only because I have an old Suburban that the parts are interchangeable with. In fact, that's why that window on the passenger side is out, because I took that out and put it in the Suburban. You know, that's the good thing about Chevys. They have a lot of interchangeable parts. So I'm going to scrap this and just get rid of it, take off parts that I think I might want, like that good 350. And I know I need a taillight lens for the Suburban. You know, I got one of them. They didn't last long, though. I mean, that particular body style, they made them out of thin metal. They rust out quick. But I only paid, when I bought it, like 25 years ago, I paid about $500 for it, and I drove it, you know, for at least 5 years. And I think in the end, when I parked it, I'm not sure, I think I got, it might have been when I got the Suburban. But there's good parts. I think the starter is bad on this, the ring gear. I should actually throw a battery in and see if I can get it to run, because I know that was a good 350. So it was worth keeping it because it's a 350 in the Suburban. But I don't drive that Suburban anymore. But I got more money tied up in the Suburban. And that's, you know, the 3/4 ton Suburban. They're a hell of a machine. That one's got, well, the tranny's bad on it. And I hate working on them 4-wheel drive transmissions, but I'll have to dive into it one of these days. I've got another that's a Turbo 400 transmission. I have one of those in a different vehicle that's good. And actually this 350 tranny that's in this one, I have a different vehicle that tranny can go into. So I'll scrap her out, salvage what I can. Though I kind of hate to part with things like window glass. The next one to come out, yeah, let's see, I think it's 54, 56, Willys Overland. First 4-wheel drive I owned. A really nice vehicle, but it would be, you know, it was unfortunate that it had been modified quite a little when I got it. It had a Buick V6 put in it, and that motor was really nothing but trouble. So now it's got a Chevy 6-cylinder in it, and I always thought I should go back to work on that sometime. They're a really nice vehicle if you could get one that was in original condition, or, you know, closer to original. But this has got a lot of good parts on it, so I'm not going to part with this one. You know, I still think someday I should do something with it. But it was the first 4-wheel drive I owned, and I used the crap out of that. It kind of spoiled me, because I always make sure to have a 4-wheel drive since then, because that's the only way to get around up here. But I'll have to come out of here, but I've got quite a little brush behind this one. You know, the other one was easy to get at. Here I've got some trees. They're a little bit too big to just drag it out of there without doing some kind of damage. So I'll hit it kind of this way first and clear that brush out of there. Then she'll come out. But like I say, I'm going to hang on to that. And I think behind that, I got a 51 Ford pickup, two-wheel drive. And then there's a 50 Ford two-wheel drive. So there's things to be discovered. But if nothing else, got a couple of good old-style rear mirrors on this one. They're worth saving. And she ain't quite as whiny. Well, she's a little whiny, but not quite as bad. But like I say, this one had been modified way too much. But I rebuilt that transfer case and transmission before I put it back in with the Chevy 6-cylinder, which is a 235, which is a good motor if I should ever need one. But I would hang on to this with the thought if I could ever find one that is in more original condition. Of course, I got the trick bag and now I don't really need it, but these are interesting vehicles. Go through a lot. So I was impressed with it. It's what all the mail carriers used to drive, these things, because you could get them in a right-hand drive. You know, they just switch cubby holes. You know, it's just everything could be changed around. But like I say, this has been too modified when I got it to really bring it back to stock. But a lot of good parts. I don't see these come up for sale much anymore, though. But you know, they got that Jeep-looking front end, so you can kind of see the evolution of Jeeps. But these are Willys. The Willys out, and that didn't go too bad. But there again, every tire's flat, so I'm going to do a lot of inflating before I can move these around. At least this one, I got another set of tires and rims I can put on, instead of even monkeying around trying to air those up. Classic vehicle, though. You know, a little fancier than the Chick Magnet, and a little faster down the road. Rated at half-ton. Next up will be a 51 Ford. But that baby has got trees around her. So I'm going to have to pull some brambles out before I can get that out. And it was the first pickup I ever owned. I drove that one quite a while. Bought that from my brother. He got it for like $100 in Fargo. And he drove it for a while, and I bought it from him. And I drove it for quite a few years, but it's the most amazing. It's a 51, but it's got a 63 motor put in it. Now, whoever put this motor in there, when they put it in, they didn't actually fabricate decent motor mounts. It was out. It's a 3-speed on the floor. Yeah, it's got a good shift boot. There's a part I can use. But like I say, they didn't fabricate motor mounts. They actually ran a chain from one side of the frame to the other and laid the oil pan right on that chain with an old shoe in between the oil pan and the chain. And then there was a problem. You know, if you tipped it over, that motor would have fallen right out. But we drove her like that. We just kept driving her. But the only thing that would happen, when you hit the accelerator, like in low gear, she had a tendency to want to tip the motor over, open the throttle wide open, so she'd roar off. You push in the clutch, well then the motor dropped back, hit second gear, roar off again. But I ended up putting another little chain over to the side of the fender to keep the motor from flopping and doing that full wide open deal all the time. You know, when I think of it now, When I finally quit driving this, I think it still ran. I think I could probably, actually it even looks like it's got a little air in the tires. I bet I could probably get this thing to run. But it's a weird old pickup. And, you know, at one time it had been given up for dead, and somebody, just for the heck of it, shot bullet holes through the windshield. But she was resurrected. And she was a driver. But a chancy driver. Probably goods in there. Nope, cubbyhole's empty and barely hanging in there. Whole collection of old radios. But by God, I got a good shift boot. I could get her running, but I don't think the cops will let me get far with her. Wow, she's got good rear mirrors on it. I need one of them for my '64 Chevy. The horse is broke. It's got a pair of good ones on there. Well, the next vehicle over, buried in there, I thought it was a 50, but no, that's a '63 Ford, 3/4 ton. And that one, the camshaft is out of. Well, I could actually take the motor out of this, which is a '63. I could drop it right into that '63 Ford. But, you know, how many old pickups do you need? But I drove that for a lot of years. Then on the other side of that, which you can't barely see, is a 50. Yeah, I got a collection here. But now I got a good shift boot, but I'm going to have to do a lot of tree pulling before I try to get this baby out of here. And I'm filling my yard up with stuff until I get it sorted out. But, you know, like I say, I bet I could get that baby to run. She was, when I first moved up here, that was the vehicle I was hauling logs with. Looking at this Willys now, I actually have air in one tire. That's a first in this expedition. Back when it's flat, at least flat on the one part. But I got air in one. Looking at this Willys now, I actually have air in one tire. That's a first in this expedition. Back when it's flat, at least flat on the one part. But I got air in one.